In this episode, we show you how we deal with storms at sea and why weather forecasting in the Caribbean is so different from what we're used to in the Mediterranean. You see how we run from a Dana named Alice, and we also take you along on our adventure in beautiful Barcelona. So grab a drink, sit back, and join us for another adventure aboard Luna. Welcome back to our channel, and as you can see, we're not in Europe anymore. Episode 51, wow. Really excited to film this one because it has been a hell of a journey. Living at sea for 4 years already, and well, the first 3 years were a little try and error in Europe, quite safe, like close to home. But now, last January, Kai crossed the Atlantic to Martinique. Since then, we've been sailing all the way up from Martinique to Dominica, Guadeloupe, Antigua, Barbuda. We did St. Bart's, Ceiba, St. Eustatius, St. Martin, and then all the way back down again, because right now hurricane season has started. It's the 15th of June and hurricane season officially started 1st of June. So now we're way back to Grenada. We did St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and now we're in Grenada on a beautiful island here. A private island, just us on this island, and it's really amazing. Well, it has been a hell of a ride, completely different than our journey in Europe, and we cannot wait to take you there. We cannot wait to tell you everything about our journey so far. But first, I want to take you back to last year, because in our previous episodes from 1 to 50, you can see our journey all the way from adjusting to the boat life, which I still haven't fully adjusted to sailing from Croatia, that became kind of a safe place, safe haven, to Italy, Spain, and then all the way to the Canaries, and from the Canaries, Kai moved our Luna boats to Martinique. Yeah, now we are here in Grenada, and as you can see, beautiful island, and still yeah, living like it's a dream. But also we do see slightly change of weather conditions. Last days are very windy and cloudy and a lot of rain. When it rains here, it really rains here. Ollie! Ollie, the boat dock. It's not exactly what you think about when you think about the Caribbean, like this weather. It can be quite dangerous, but still it's very different from the Med, because the weather in the Med can also be very dangerous. Weather is probably the most important topic for any sailor. On board Luna, Kai is the one who checks the forecast every single day. But he has quickly discovered that weather in the Caribbean is very different from what we used to in the Mediterranean.
Back in the Mediterranean, checking the weather was just part of my daily routine. It didn't matter whether we were planning a passage or we were staying on a calm anchorage. I was checking every day, and every day I checked it mostly 3 times. I checked it in the morning when I woke up first thing to see how the day was going to be. During the day I was keeping an eye on systems moving, and in the night I always took a second look at the weather just to know how the night was going to be. Because on the anchorage it can be very rough when things change. The Mediterranean can be incredibly volatile. Weather systems can develop quickly and become very, very aggressive. Things can change in a few hours. Like from sunny day to the most intense storms. We had very, very bad experiences in that regard. And along the Spanish coast, this was very complicated. Complicated in the sense that the east coast is very exposed. Nothing to hide because it's a long stretched coastline. Only beaches, no islands. So some cases when there was really something coming, we chose to be in the marinas. And we did it more often than we did in the rest of the Mediterranean. For example, we stayed in Ràpita, in the middle of the east coast of Spain. While there was a Dana approaching, we knew it was coming, so we hide away in the marina. But at a certain point it was going to be so intense at the spot where we were, we decided to run away. So that means we had to sail out in the storm, thunderstorms, but still running away because we knew it was coming. And indeed, it did. It was devastating. The marina was washed away, complete village was washed away. So we made the right decision. But it was only due to the fact that we took a really close eye on the radar every day, constantly. It was very intense. That really changed. Well, we get here to the Caribbean. I tend to not look at the weather anymore. The only moments I check the weather is before a passage between the islands. Because the islands we spend on is mostly on the leeward sides, which is very comfortable. No winds whatsoever, maybe just a little bit, but the seas are calm, it's very comfortable. But as soon as we make a passage from one island to the other, these things can change. But to be honest, I had no bad experiences in that regard. So we just check the weather just before we make it a passage. If it's going to be a slightly northerly or southerly eastern wind, and based on that we make the decision to go or maybe to postpone a day or two just to have a more favorable wind. Yeah, so that's really a big change in regard to sailing in the Mediterranean. And speaking of that, that only changed in the past weeks while we are coming close to the end of the season and the hurricane season is approaching. So from now on, I'll keep a close look. We check the hurricane forecast, check the systems that are leaving from the African coast. And for that reason, we spend our time mostly in the south now in Grenada. And we are basically extending the season in a place where I believe you can still run away quickly to Trinidad or to the ABC Islands. So basically that's what we're doing right now. So we are now in Sandy Island. And as you can see, the weather is changing, more rainy, wind is picking up a little bit. It is changing. It's not bad at all, but you can see it's coming to an end. So while we spend our last, I think 3 weeks here, we will slowly move towards Aruba as a final destination to stay for the hurricane season, which we think is going to be safe. It's not in terms of insurance, the place we can be and still have insurance based on a named storm. But we will take the risk because I think that's a good place to be. And the history shows that it's almost a safe place to stay. The only thing now is to remind myself every day that the weather is something you can't take for granted. You have to respect it, you have to look at it. And I find myself a little bit lazy after 6 months in the Caribbean. And I have to change that because that's not the way it should be. So note to self, check the weather every day. We're going to enjoy I hope a little sun, but for now, a little cloudy skies, maybe some rain, but hell yeah, it's a beautiful island.
And from this beautiful island, we're taking you back 6 months in time to the Spanish coast, where we find ourselves fleeing from a powerful Dana storm named Alice. In the last episode, you saw how we finally reached the Spanish coast after a difficult passage. I became seriously ill along the way, while Lewis had an allergic reaction in the middle of the sea. And then it seemed like even dogs could catch some kind of COVID-like virus, because poor Ollie got very sick too. That week, we had to unscrew the floor panels multiple times to clean up after him. Luckily, we were safely in the harbor of Blanes. We truly fell in love with the Spanish lifestyle. And honestly, I could really imagine living here one day. That's why it felt extra special and exciting to sail into the harbor of Barcelona. We had visited Barcelona many times before, but never by boat. And according to Guy, it was finally time to visit the Sagrada Familia. And let's just say, booking last-minute tickets for a family is not cheap. The tickets cost us around 600 euros, but honestly, it was worth every single euro.
architecture was absolutely breathtaking. The Sagrada Familia is a basilica in Barcelona designed by Antoni Gaudi. Construction started back in 1882, and now, more than 140 years later, the Sagrada Familia is finally in its final stage. The basilica is owned by a private foundation, and around 99% of the construction is funded entirely by ticket sales from visitors. And you might wonder, why didn't Gaudi just build the foundation for the entire church at once? Well, by building it in sections, he ensured that the future generations would continue and complete the full vision, instead of settling for only part of it. Gaudi wanted this church to belong to everyone, including poor people. And that's what makes it so beautiful. Over the years, generations of ordinary people helped bring this church to life. Many of the sculptures and faces inside the basilica were inspired by local people from that time. Gaudi thought about everything, every detail, every symbol, every line. The entire masterpiece is simply genius. He was a visionary far ahead of his time and designed the church with the future in mind. At the entrance, the Lord's Prayer is written in the doors in many different languages. The irony is that during his life, Gaudi was terrified of anything with wheels and avoided transportation whenever possible, which makes it even more tragic that he eventually died after being hit by a tram. We're absolutely loving life here in Spain and in this beautiful city. But we also know we need to move on soon, and that comes with some concerns, because a Dana weather system is developing. And the big question is, are we going to make it to Ibiza before the end of the season? Ibiza has been on top of my wish list ever since we started sailing. We traveled all the way from Croatia to the Spanish coast, but lately the weather hasn't been on our side. Right now a Dana called Alice is developing, and that's a local weather phenomenon you really don't want to mess with. A Dana is a dangerous Spanish weather phenomenon where cold air becomes isolated high in the atmosphere, often causing extreme rainfall, flooding, heavy storms and violent winds around the Mediterranean. After some serious passage planning, we left our cozy little port in Barcelona.
Ja, net. Oh, schatje. Respect.
And managed to slip past the storm. Our trip was actually pretty comfortable. We did some homeschooling. Admired the view. Got a bamboo tree stuck in our propeller. And we even hosted our first YouTube premiere. We did have a rough half an hour where the kids and I weren't that happy. But at 2 a.m. we arrived safely at port of Sant Carles, and despite the storm, we are one step closer to Ibiza. In Sant Carles, it felt as we had stepped back into time. The streets were filled with people in historical costumes. Traditional music echoed through the town, and everywhere we looked, there were celebrations and historical reenactments. We had arrived right in the middle of Origins, an annual cultural festival that brings the history of La Ràpita to life. It was a special experience, but we didn't stay for long. Because while the town was celebrating, we knew Alice was not far behind. Looking back, we left Sant Carles Marina at exactly the right moment. Just hours after we untied the lines, severe storms hit the Ebro Delta. Roads flooded, train services were disrupted, and parts of the area around La Ràpita ended up underwater. At first, I was nervous when Kai decided to leave the marina while the weather looked so threatening. Dark clouds were building, strong winds were blowing, and everything seemed to suggest that the storm was heading our way. But it soon became clear that leaving was the right decision. Sometimes it feels wrong to head out when a dark weather system appears to be blowing in your direction. But this was a good reminder that things aren't always what they seem. Wind direction doesn't necessarily tell you where a storm system is moving, and that's a mistake many people make. By the time the storm struck La Ràpita, we were already safely in Valencia, keeping a close eye on the forecast and staying on constant alert, doing everything we could to stay one step ahead of the weather. It was one of those moments that remind you how quickly life at sea can change. One day you're enjoying calm autumn weather in a marina, and only a few days later that same place is dealing with flash floods. In the next episode you'll see how we continue our race against Storm Alice. We face an unexpected engine challenge at sea and discover whether we make it all the way to Ibiza. And from this beautiful beach, there's just one more thing I'd like to say.
Thank you for watching, and if you like it, please subscribe to our channel and help us grow, because I would really like to grow our channel. So if you like it, please subscribe, leave a comment, like it, whatever.
Your support means the world to us. Hope to see you next week. With love, from Luna.